Here we go. All right. Ah, bonjour, all my relatives. Once again, we go back to the Anishinaabe virtual history. This is a third session. This is called session 3, Mshki'ki. In a way, just going to load up my PowerPoint here, and then we can begin. Okay. Wabshki minishazet mishatem nish nakaz bejuni dodem yishkonaning donji Anishinaabe nin. Alan Sutherland is my English name. My spirit name is White Spotted Horse. I am your facilitator from the Earth Lodge, the Earth Lodge Keeper. Today's session, I wanted to start off by mentioning Elder Jules LaValle had just recently passed away just a few days ago. I'm dedicating this presentation to my friend and mentor who just moved on to the spiritual world. Jules was born in St. Laurent, Manitoba. He was raised in a Métis lifestyle of fishing, hunting, and trapping. His family taught him a rich, beautiful way of Métis life and how everything has to do with culture, language, foods, and customs. He received teachings from many elders from different nations, including the Anishinaabe, Dakota, Cree, and others. Jules has dedicated his last 40 years of learning traditional practices through ceremonies and healing, teachings, or sharing circles. As an educator, Jules has been implementing these wisdoms, knowledge, and insights to the Red Willow Lodge that Jules had in previous years, along with his family. He's been teaching courses for the majority of his time, such as the University of Manitoba, and an elder in residence at Red River College. Now, I met Jules probably in 1992, or it could be 1993, when Margaret was opening a grand opening for the Health Science Center for their Aboriginal services. Now, I later on was able to see Margaret and Jules LaValle do teachings way back then. But I had a chance to work with Margaret and Jules LaValle when I was working for the Regional Health Authority in 2007. And we have been working off and on ever since. Along the way, Jules have made me his mentor. And as all mentors do, they're very generous and very patient. And he shared everything that he knew to get me on this red road that I'm on today. I had other mentors, but he's the one that gave me everything. He's the one that brought me as a lone wolf out there doing my own thing into the wolf pack. He says you have to be part of the pack. And along the way, I was able to do his work. Now that he passed, he's always going to be my teacher. Anyway, I dedicate this presentation. A lot of it was from his teaching. When I left off from my last session, I was speaking of a creation story that describing how Weneboju worked with the animals to recreate a new world. Creation stories contain teachings about the importance of connection to the land, the natural environment, and all of creation. After the events of the Great Flood, Weneboju and missing his friend Maegan the wolf became inconsolable, went into a deep depression. He next declared a truce to mourn for his friend Maegan to the Manitous, disfiguring his person and covering his head to indicate grief and bitterly weeping and uttering from time to time the name of his lost friend Maegan. It is said that Weneboju secluded himself for 6 years in his lodge in his mourning. During this truce, the evil Manitous, knowing the unlimited powers of Wenibuju and recollecting the destruction of the vast numbers of Manitous, by their metamorphosis of gratifying his anger, they consulted together to devise a means of pacifying Wenibuju's wrath. At last, 4 Manitous, array with age and ripe in experience and wisdom, who had been parties to that has not been parties to the death of Myagon, undertook a mission of pacification. They first consulted with the animal world, the plant world, the rock world, and the tree world. And they all agreed that they should never have this type of event to their world again. So to appease Wenibuju, they were willing to share all their secrets with him. The 4 Manitous built a lodge of condolence near Wenibuju. They prepared a feast of welcome, and filling their tobacco with pipe at the stem was a calumet. Then silently and ceremoniously they moved towards their and to their person that they want to reach out, which is Wenibuju. Now these 4 ambassadors carried a big carried a bag made of entire skin of otter. One carried lynx, another beaver, and some other animal, and it was contained in each and every one of these magically potent medicines. Arriving at the lodge, Wenibuju, they chanted to him the ceremonial formality of their good intentions and kind greetings, and asked him to be pleased to accompany them to their lodge. Moved by these greetings, Wenibuju uncovered his head, and arising, he washed himself, and then he joined them. On his entering the lodge, the Manitous offered him a cup of purification medicine preparatory to his situation, preparatory to the initiation into the midday or the Grand Medicine Society. Wenibuju partake the drink, and at once found himself completely freed from feelings of resentments and melancholy. Then the prescribed ritual was performed by the Manitous. The proper dances and the chants of the midday were chanted, and the 4 Manitous, as humanized spirit beings, gently applied to Wenibuju their magical potent medicine bags, which, after ceremony, blowing their magic power into him. At every medicine applied, Wenibuju became aware that the melancholy and the sadness and the hatred and the anger that oppressed him gradually left, and that his affection and feelings of joy arose in his heart. On completion of this initiation, he joined in the dances and the chanting. Then they all ate and smoked together, and Wenibuju expressed thanks to his host for initiating him into the mysteries of the Grand Medicine. This here's a picture of Isaac Murdoch. We talked recently about Wenibuju stories, and this is his painting of when medicines are being done in Midday Lodge. Now, subsequently, Wenibuju again descended upon the earth and at once initiated all his family into the mysteries of the Grand Medicine. He provided each of them with a medicine bag, well supplied with potent medicines and charms. He also strictly enjoined upon them the need of perpetrating and accompanying ceremonies among his descendants, explaining to them that these practices faithfully observed would cure their diseases, obtain for them abundance in fishing and hunting, and gain for them a complete victory over their enemies. Some hold that the doctrine that René Beaujeu created the animals for food and clothing of man, that caused those plants and roots to grow, whose virtues could cure disease, enable the hunter to kill wild animals to drive away famine. These plants he confined to the watchful care of the great grandmother of humans, Gishi Manituekwe, also known as Akwe, Aki. So when collecting plants and roots and herbs for their natural and magic virtues, a Anishinaabe faithfully leaves on the ground, hard ground, a place whence he taken the root or a plant. He offers a small, gives an offering to Aki, such as tobacco, sama. It is said that when Eboju in his war over the earth and destroying ferocious monsters of land and water that led to the great flood, he had put in jeopardy the faith of mankind. Rene Beaujeu promised that he will no longer endanger the earth as long as the Anishinaabe continues with the ceremonies in a good and respectful way and respecting the gifts of Aki. That is why Nikisi, the eagle, flies high up every morning to check on the Anishinaabe to see if they have continued being Anishinaabe. And the following teachings was shared to me by Jules LaValle in a sharing circle. And later on, I got to understand that they're organized by a pipe ceremony. So when you look to Wabanong to the east, then you think about teachings and gifts that we receive from the east, and this is where the animal world was assigned to. Now, the animal world, there are those that fly, the winged ones, those that swim, the fin ones, those that creep, those that crawl, the four-legged and the two-legged. All this comes in a form of, as teachers and guides, the seven grandfather teachings. When we teach about life and the gifts of life, we think about the eagle when it comes to love, our humility when it comes to the wolf, our courage when it comes to our respect from the bison, our honesty from Gichisabe, Bigfoot or Sasquatch, and wisdom. And wisdom is from Mick, the beaver. And to put it all together, tied together is truth. And that one is represented by the turtle. But there are many, many teachers in the animal world. But when we look to the south, in our pipe ceremonies, we think about the gifts. We think about the plant world, about all the medicines. You see, Mshki'ki means strength. Ki means strength. Ki, Aki, comes from the word Aki, earth. So when you put it together, it's simply Mshki'ki means strength of the earth. Now there's all kinds of teachings about plants. Too long of a list, but the Anishinaabe people were very well knowledge of the attributes, the healing ways of all plants, including ones that can hurt you. But even the ones that can hurt you, mixed with a balance of the good plants, it won't be that toxin to hurt you. But it takes many years of knowledge to know that. So what I mentioned before is that the one that was planted on, put on the ground for anything you take from the earth is asama, tobacco. Now the other ones that we use in our healing and in our ceremonies, like smudge ceremonies, is sage or sweetgrass. And sweetgrass is considered the first plant, the first gift, because that's the hair of our mother, the hair of Mother Earth. Then there's wike, and there's bare root, and there's musket tea, and there's wild mint, and there's so much healing teas that I could talk to you about. But it's not just that. There's also the plant foods, corn and wild rice and strawberries and nuts. They're all healing. They all give us energy. They give us life. And like I mentioned, what's commonly used in smudge is sage. It's a women's medicine. The men's medicine is sweetgrass to help them reminder of the nourishing of their mother, especially for those that have a hard time expressing what's in their heart. And it gets stuck sometimes in the throat area before they can speak. They hold it back. Use sweetgrass for the men to help them release, say what you need. Also, we use cedar. Cedar is also used for protection. So tobacco again can be used in smudge because that's your prayer. So all smoke that goes into goes up, goes into the spiritual world, goes into the spirit world. Those are your prayers. Those are what's in your heart, what's your intentions. So you look to the west, you'll be reminded of the gifts of the rock world, of the earth itself. But these are the teachings that Elder Jules LaValle would talk about. He says the rock world also has thunder beings, thunderbirds. And you give that tobacco when they first come into the season, they come into the summer, and you can hear them. Right away, you give them tobacco, so you appease them. You appease them so they don't hurt your area or your home. There's also being acknowledging the sacred mountains, where a lot of times we go and we do our vision quests, we do our ceremonies on sacred mountains. Then, of course, is the rocks, Aseni. It reminds me of, I didn't tell that story from our last session, but one of the brothers his name, the fourth brother was Rock or Flint. It was more like Flint. That's that flint where you create fire. That was his gift to the Anishinaabes, fire. Talking about that one, that's how when Nona have lost her life, giving life to that last son. It was because he was jagged. He was rock. It was jagged, and Minot did not survive. Now, when before the Great Flood, there was that one story where when Abuju went on his journeys to seek revenge for the death of their mother, so he went and out looked for that rock, that brother of his. And when he found him, there was this great battle. This battle that went around the world. They fought and they fought and they fought. And along the way, Rene Bourgeois kept on chipping after him, chipped him. All these little flakes of rocks were spread around the world. And to this day, they call that one flint, the one you can make fire with. Anyway, stones and rocks and crystals are considered allies. They are not objects. They're actually have power. They offer not only strength, but they also provide healing. And when you look at what is offered in Madudus and the Sweat Lodge, you bring in grandfather rocks, you heat it up, and fire outside that lodge. And then when it's white hot, and it's time to bring that grandfather in, and you put it in the center of that lodge. And then that's when you add water and you purify. Now, when the ceremony is done, and when you go and now bring out the rocks after it cools off, of course, you bring them out, you would see that they crumble. They're not the same as when they first put firewood on it. They're actually crumbling because they gave their spirit. They gave their spirit to the healing of the Anishinaabe, and you can see that. So another rock that we honor, of course, is Pagan, is the spirit of the pipe. And that's the one that we think about all our relatives, all the gifts that they give to the Anishinaabe. And that's where we have our prayer to not only Gichimanatu, but to all of creation for all their help. So when you QA10, when you look into the north, you think about the gifts of the tree world. And this is where I got a lot of those teachings from Elder Jules. Because when he talks about the cedar tree, he says this is the first tree for protection is the cedar. That's why it's a tree, but it goes with our plants. It's so connected as a healing, the cedar for protection. So that's why they call it the first tree, because it's right there with sweetgrass. When he talks about these other trees, he talks about the grandfather tree. He talks about the birch and how the birch was so much usage, so much gifts to the Anishinaabe. When he talks about the other tree, poplar, the tree of life, and that's the one we use in Sundance. Then there's the pine as a tree of peace. Red willow is the tree of honor. And there's a lot of good medicines in that red willow. And I guess that's why Jules talks about it. Why is it the tree of honor? And I guess he would get into the story about how children were disciplined by saying, go and get red willow, bring it back one. Now, I have found out that could have been in our memory. I know it was in my memory growing up. But when you go into ancestral teachings or that the way it was before we call colonization or the Europeans showed up imposing their value systems when it comes to discipline. We don't strike children. We demonstrate how behavior should be. And we give disappointments. And I'm just reminded of Margaret LaValle when if you're disappointed with people, she had this way of saying, there's a word for it. You just give them a look. Give them a look. And every once in a while, I want her to tell me that story. So I see her. And there's not just one look. There's like a couple of those looks when it's really bad, or you when you're annoyed. Anyway, getting back to the story, Tamarack, the tree of the heart. And a lot of our lodges is made out of tamarack. When we do our grand council, it's made out of that because that's the tree of the heart. We, the Anishinaabe, are the people of the heart. Oak is the chief, Ogima, the chief of the trees. And that one is the tree of strength. Juniper is for protection against hexes and curses. When people think bad things about you. There's elm, there's ash, there's aspen, balsam, there's chokecherries, there's maple, and over time I have accumulated a list of what healing attributes do they have from their bark or sometimes in their roots or in their leaves. And then when you look up all around us, that's the first family of creation. Of course, we're on Earth. But you look around us, you see Jesus, you see the sun, that's grandfather. And all our ceremonies face towards that sun. In the morning, it comes up in the east. So that's where we start thinking, well, Gichimana too, thank you for the gift of life. And we do ceremonies facing this. The moon, the grandmother moon, Tibikigi is also part of our, looks after us by keeping the waters clean on earth. So when you see the stars out there, the very first star is the morning star. And I have to clarify this, that represents Menona, because that's the one that's in the east. And then you got west wind is the father. That represents in the west. So, but when you go through a day, it goes from the east and it ends in the west. Anyway, I have to clarify that one yet. There's the rainbow. And sometimes it's called our ribbon shirts, ribbons of the sun, these rainbows. And there are stories about the blue bird, how they created the rainbow, but that's a story for another day. Then there's northern lights, and they say those are our ancestors that dance. Our ancestors dance at night. You can see them. You can see them dancing. And Aniquit is the clouds, and Newton is the winds. Our shield is the ozone layer, is our protection. And in my first session, I talked about the 4 levels beyond the spiritual world, beyond the moon. And then I think about Mother Earth. Of the 4 sacred elements of life, earth or land is Kanata, wind, Nudin, fire, Ishkuti, water, Nibi. These are all the elements of life. If you were to just focus on one element for healing and do another one the next day on a different element of healing, you're really getting all the power of life in that healing. The Piminishi wind, the land that gives life, is usually the general term that all of everything around us is life, and it gives us life to the Anishinaabe. I have put a picture here of the sacred bundle, and it's these bundles that everybody has. That's the teaching that was given from Mani Boju to the Anishinaabe. He says all around us is medicines. So when you get your medicines, you put it together, you have a sacred bundle. Now I do a small sacred bundle I wear around my neck, and that's medicine bundle. That helps me speak to truth and to speak with authority, loud, with conviction. It also makes me connected to, of course, Gitchi Manitou and all of creation. There's sometimes I say things that I wasn't planning to, or I learned something even from myself. Now, there's a purpose to everything. All of life has a purpose. Every medicine has its uniqueness and its different purpose. Like the trees has a different uniqueness and different purpose. The animal world, the rock world, they all have different purpose. But when you combine them, bring more uniqueness to them, like the drum, made out of tree, made out of deer hides, and so forth. And you can decorate it from the animal world to it. But then it's the same thing with our pipe. Our pipe has all those elements that are there, including the sacred elements of moisture, water, the air. We breathe through the pipe. We smoke it. We put plants in there. And we also have the rock. We have the tree, and we decorate it with animals and feathers and such. But the sacred bundles are tools. They are naturally from the earth, and creativity is a human trait. That's an Anishinaabe trait, is our mind of creativity, which is very important. But also to be mindful that where spirit lies is in our heart, to be humble on everything we do. So even before you do anything, you give out good intention. You start thinking about good things. So you do everything in respect, with purpose, good intentions. What is best? What is best for the good of all of life? So over time, you can collect rocks. They may have a special meaning for you. My wife collects rocks wherever she goes. New place, he's going to look for a rock. Try to find one in New York City, and there's no way you're going to find an original rock over there, because everything was taken apart, picked apart. But you know what? She continues on, and she has got a lot of rocks collection. But when you go into what is the feather used for in the animal world? Well, there's energy under the feather. Like I said, the eagle is the one that flies the highest. That's the one that makes contact to the spiritual world. That's the one that makes contact with Gitchi Manitou on our behalf as Anishinaabe. So it, it's in between those worlds of this physical world that we call the middle world, the higher world. And that's the one with the far vision, see far, sees everything. And that's the one that gave its promise that I'll report back to you. The Anishinaabe stopped doing ceremonies, or they stopped being Anishinaabe. So we have a very close association with that one. That one represents laws in our teaching. But there's also the smudge bowl that comes naturally from a shell. Or you know what? Sometimes people get all hung up. Why are you using a little iron frying pan? Well, it came from the earth. It's still a mineral. It's iron. So sometimes people get all hung up without really understanding where did that come from? Did you get it from somebody, or did you made up your own mind over it? But what's important to understand that if you lose any of these items, these tools, these allies, if you lose our bundle, and we can always make a new one. That's why our people give them away as gifts. Some will keep for themselves because there was a gift initially. They received one, and it is important. Memories of that change. I myself almost lost my bundle up north when I went to Churchill. I came back home south to Winnipeg, and my bundle, my suitcase went straight more up north on a small plane, and then it was left on that plane for about a week before somebody noticed this doesn't belong to them. And eventually it came home. Boy, was I so happy. Not so much that what's all in that bundle. It was the one pipe that I received from my uncle, who got it from Pipestone in our northern area of a northern part of our lake, Lake Waterhen. And to me, that was important. That I didn't want to lose it. I was sad, but I always knew I can always start again. Well, anyway, before I move on, I just want to let you know that this was so important for our people to have that knowledge of our environment, the knowledge of medicines. We knew how to look after ourselves. And it wasn't a particular person that knew all the information. Everybody knew the medicines. Some were gifted more than others. Others are so committed at a lifetime that they became a medicine person because they're committed to that profession. So there was a time there was no Shoppers Drug Mart if somebody got sick, one of your children got sick. You either had your own medicine in the house, or you go and find the one that has the medicine. So anyway, this coming back now, because there was a time when all these activities, harvesting, you weren't allowed to leave your community as the reserves. You needed a pass system to leave the reserve to go to surrounding areas. Now, if you got caught without a pass or permission from the Indian agent, then you could very much spend at least 4 to 6 months working in the hard labor in Stony Mountain Penitentiary. That's how harsh it was, because they really want to stamp out, they call it pagan belief, savages. And they later on, reading residential schools, they would call these things bad medicine, bad medicine. And there's nothing bad about it. This came from the earth. This was the blessings of the earth. And the thing is, when the Europeans, when they first came here, they learned about these medicines. Later on, they took advantage of that knowledge, created their own pharmaceuticals based on 75% of Western pharmaceuticals come from indigenous knowledge in this side of the world. It's just in pill form. The red willow bark itself, the bark itself, you dry it up and you grind it, and it becomes an aspirin. And many of the trees are like aspirin. But now Bayer, I guess, I don't know. He owes some loyalties to our people. Anyway, anybody could have a sacred bundle, and it starts off by saying, okay, like my wife, you got a rock collection. What are you going to do with it? Well, you're going to start about where you went, and where did this come from, and maybe talk about how different rocks are. That's what people do today when it comes to crystals. There's so much different energy when it comes to crystals. So from Winnie coming back and saying to the Anishinaabe, this is medicines. This is what you have to learn to look after yourselves. He also told us about the dancing. This is how you dance. This is how you chant. These are the songs you should sing. You enjoy life. It's not about surviving. It's about playing and recreation and compete with each other in sports. It's all meant to be that we have to find a balance. Life is not serious all the time, but to enjoy. Now we're getting into this month where sun dances are starting to happen. Typically, a sun dance starts when the first full moon of June. So you're going to see for the next 2 months many sun dances everywhere. And I know that one of the questions I was asked in the first session about what is a sun dance, and a sun dance is probably one of the highest orders of commitment when it comes to healing. Now you're there to heal not only yourself, but your families and friends, and you went there to provide healing for others. You're going to dance for somebody who's battling cancer or diabetes or meth or addictions and such. But it's also a healing for our family, our human family, for the world. We go there to pray and to look after the earth. So there are many that would give their intentions by offering cloths. Different colored cloths have different meaning. They'll give tobacco. And when you give tobacco, you give your commitment. Now, the commitment for a sun dance is typically you're committing for 4 years. Every summer, he says, you're going to come back every summer for those 4 years. And when you commit yourself to dance, to be a dancer, you're essentially going to be purifying yourself first in the sweat lodge. And you'll be getting up with the sun. There'll be no food and water for you. And you'll be there for 4 days and 4 nights. Now you'll be dancing with the sun in, first thing in the morning until when the sun is coming down. So you'll be dancing in an arbor. And usually there's shade for you to help you as you dance under the sun. Now, women is lining up on one side, and the men is on the other side. And they usually got them in the order of the youngest to the oldest. Now, they have a lot of shkabes. They have a lot of helpers. You got the Sundance chiefs, many leaders. You also have the singers that motivate, that gives you the strength to do this. And there's all kinds of healing going on, all kinds of ceremonies going on. And you got all these shkabes there to help out. When there's a medicine man, he'll draw out disease, and the shkabe will take a discarded cloth and that and we'll put it in a fire. And there's all kinds of healers that are there. There's all kinds of sacrificing. You sacrifice you commit to your body, your mind, your emotions, your spirit, your physical body to this process. And it's not easy. That's part of being a human being, is to challenge it. But one thing you're going to learn is that no matter how weak you get, or you're just going to collapse, or you don't, there's always a very low point that then you realize, my real strength is inward, the inner fire, the blue flame that's inside. And the body only reacts to life when my spirit is infinite and strong in the first place. And then you get the strength. Even though you're dead tired physically, you got the strength, you got the mental strength, you got emotional strength. You know, the heart is strong. And the thing is, you realize what's really the strongest thing about you is your spirit, your essence, how powerful the mind can be, how motivating the heart can be. Then your body will follow suit. Then your body will become stronger. Anyway, it's not only a place of healing, it's a place of teaching, place of journey inward and outward. I myself, I've sacrificed. I have danced with the buffalo. I have flown with the eagles. And when you're done a ceremony like that, then you call everybody your brother and sister. So you have a Sundance family. And that's just one ceremony, but it's a big one because it incorporates all kinds of other ceremonies in it. There are others that I can talk to you about, Vision Quest, I can talk to you healing ceremonies, medicines and such. There are many. That's why, as unique that all human beings are, they're very unique that everybody has a gift. So there are storytellers, there are historians, there are teachers, and there are healers, and there are people healed by medicines, and there are those that have unique by can look into the body and actually see, like an X-ray, see what's going on there. So there's all kinds of unique people, and everybody's unique. It's just that if you don't have this immediately in your life growing up, and I didn't, I only got this in my late 20s. I was only all in after meeting the likes of Margaret and Jules LaValle. Then I started practicing and started teaching it. So there's also, of course, everybody's familiar with is the dancing, the gathering of nations. And it's about before we get busy again. In the meantime, we plan our three sisters, our gardens, but we go and harvest. We go and harvest for getting ready for the fall. We got to get our medicines in the summertime. We got to go get our fruits, and we got to get our berries, and we got to get our nuts, and we got to get ready in the fall and accumulate all that. So winter is hard. To survive it, it's very hard. So you're always busy. But the summer is not just ceremonies, it's also to play, to enjoy the company of other nations. So all nations gather together, and they call it a powwow. But as a historian and a life of me, I don't know where the word originated, and I don't know what it means. All I just know is a gathering of nations. But it's commonly known as a powwow today. But ain't that what culture is to share with others. So you can go and dance with the Lakota and the Cree and the Blackfoot and the Algonquians and go all over, and you can dance and share culture. And that's what culture is that as the people evolve and going through the ages, new culture will evolve. And that's why it becomes a little bit universal today. That's why the powwow is universal. It's about expressing what's inside you in terms of beauty, and it plays itself in its regalia. So it's full of colors. It's not just to be one way. It's meant to be diverse, and you'll see it in the songs and energy. Oh, maybe when they do the grass dance, it's very traditional. It's a little bit protocols are involved, but otherwise it's fancy dancing. Or healing. There's protocol in the healing, like the jingle dresses. Healing. So in a way, this is where I'm going to leave it for Renee to ask questions. I know there's another guest they might want to ask questions. I'll just shut this PowerPoint. So usually at the end of these sessions, they say me glitch, I cannot done away to all my relate. So Stop share. Renee McGurry, do you have any questions for me?
Are you still taping or recording?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, be on your best behavior. No, I'm just kidding.
You know what? There's so much that I'm learning from you, and also just as I get older as well. And I really feel badly that I didn't get a chance to learn any of this earlier, but better late than never, right?
Oh,
So
definitely.
yeah, so I've not, you know what, and it's really difficult. I get a lot of questions from people asking about ceremony. Um, what about a Sundance ceremony? I'm not Indigenous. Can I go to a Sundance ceremony? So
And
that's a common question.
and
Excuse me.
and to answer that for your benefit, if it comes up again, is yes. Yes, there's many ways to come and see a Sundance, but when you get there, there's gonna be somebody that's gonna direct you with protocol. It's usually a place that is roped out, and you can observe from a little bit of a distance. There are plenty of people around there to ask questions, saying, "What's going on here? What's going on there?" But it's also an opportunity on a third day that outsiders, no matter who they are, can come and get healing, and they'll organize it. They'll be coming into the arbor to go to the tree of life,
Okay.
and then they can see a medicine person. But if anybody wants to get involved with a Sundance, if they're not, they don't want to commit to be that dancer, they can commit to be a helper. So you just be
Okay.
there observing and watching, and they'll guide you what's going on in terms of your role that you play.
Okay. And I have lots of questions about Sundance. Can you still dance if you don't have regalia? For example, I have just a ribbon skirt.
Yep, you're already there.
You're
So
already there. Oh, okay.
you already got a ribbon skirt, and you just need a t-shirt, and
Yeah.
you're ready
Okay.
to go. Now, some people are very traditionalist. They they want you to dance in moccasins, and sometimes people have bad feet. So there are the Sundance that I go to are they're not that judgmental. They're not that strict. You can wear your runners because you're gonna be dancing all day for 4 days.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah.
you don't want to be injured.
That's scary. What about the Shkabes, the helpers? Do they still have to fast for the 4 days?
No, they don't have to. There are going to be those that are going to want to fast along with the dancers. So
Yeah.
they're going to be mindful to look after them too. But if they're fasting, then they don't eat. They won't be hanging around with those that are eating because that's so hard for anybody to fast. So they're kind of like a set aside. But a lot of times, when you're shkabbing, when you're helping, you'll be going further away to go and eat.
Okay. All right. And what about people like I know a lot of our people have diabetes, and so fasting is really not something that they can do?
Actually, it's just the opposite.
Really? Okay.
Because I know this. I do know that when you are fasting, your body is not gonna suffer of creating insulin. In fact, it's gonna have time to recover.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's always a nurse or a doctor, somebody from a medical profession that is there. They have a medicine teepee or medicine area, and they ask people that if they're on medication to go and see them. So they determine if you can dance or not.
Okay. All right. And other question I had about other different ceremonies, like you've got the Vision Quest, right, for the young men?
Yeah, and women do it now. They do it together.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
happens if you miss that? Do they have older people join in that, or are you
Oh,
sort of
yeah.
missed the boat on
It's
that?
all different. It's all different ages now. So I did it when I was in my late 20s. I finally got a chance to catch up, and I did it. And now what I wanted to do is that in the near future that I'll find a nice place, a property for myself so I can put people out. You can put them out in a traditional way so they can go on a vision quest. And basically a vision quest is that you're seeking a dream or a vision that basically tells you who you are or what's your purpose. So it gives you a sense of, no, I'm here on this earth for a reason. So you go without any water or any food for 4 days and nights. If you happen to have a significant dream, even before that 4 days is up, or a vision is when you see something with your eyes wide open.
Yeah.
Then you can come out. You can come out of the ceremony. You come to the fire because there'll be a fire will be lit all that time, and somebody's always going to be nearby. And then at the end, everybody has a ceremony in terms of interpretation and teachings and a feast. Everything we do is always have to have a feast.
Okay. And then I had a question about the sacred bundle. So anyone can start their own sacred bundle, right? Because I have
Anybody.
my things that I've gathered over the years.
Yeah, because if it gets a bit like, or you're getting accumulating a lot, then you're gonna have a blanket,
Right.
and then you lay it out, and then you're gonna get a knowledge keeper, an elder, to help you sort it out. You sort it out the way you think where it should go, because there's no right and wrong in doing this. And then they're gonna talk about what you accumulated. What does it mean?
Oh, I see. Okay. And then the eagle feathers are gifted to you, right?
It's the highest way of showing respect. It's an honor. It's an honor. It's a way of honor. So, like when you achieve something, like something you did, like graduate from a high school, university, for instance, or you achieve something of great significance, or you are exchanged in marriage. You want to marry somebody, eagle feathers are involved. Now, when you achieve a Sundance in that first year, you're going to get an eagle feather.
Oh, okay. Okay. I have a question too. You talked about the women lining up on one side and then the men on the other side. What do you do with two spirit people? Where do
They
they
can,
go?
they can go wherever they want.
Wherever they want, eh? Okay.
Or they can go in between if they wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I had a question about that because there's been a lot of talk about two spirit people and how they were viewed traditionally as being gifted, having that
Well,
vision of both sides.
the Anishinaabe doesn't believe you only got one life. You can have
Yeah.
many. Now, I have worked with a person last week who was two spirited in the previous life, but was keeping it a secret. It was chastised. It was a very rich family, and eventually it was too much pressure. So the karma that there was, he took his life. Now he's two spirited in this life.
Oh, okay.
So he carried over that debt. Says now you're choosing to do this again.
You get a do-over.
Get a do-over. So the thing is, anybody, you, me, anybody, could have been two spirit in a past life. Could have been a mother in a past life. Could have been a
Right.
father in a past life. Because spirit is spirit. The body is only a tool, is only like a vessel, a vessel.
Okay. Now, how do you know who you were in a past life?
Well, I got ceremony for that.
Oh, there's ceremony for that. Oh,
Just take,
interesting.
just take you there.
Okay. So do you know if there's going to be any kind of sun dances or, throughout
Oh,
this summer?
there is in our territory now, like Toots has been doing for so long. There's new ones that came on board recently in the last few years, like Scownin. So they're around. They found their way up north, but I found out historically they were up north as well, like Nelson House. It's just that after 100 years, it finally came back. But
Yeah.
There was a time when it was just like people were going to the United States just to do the Sundance with the Dakota people.
Yeah.
Now it's everywhere. The Cree's doing it, the Ojibways are doing it, everybody's doing it.
Okay, so it's just not for Anishinaabe, it's also Cree people do Sundance.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, non-Indigenous people have been doing Sundance. Celebrities been going down to the Black Hills Sundances like Shirley MacLaine and rabbis and priests and celebrities. They all wanted that experience, I guess. I never
Okay.
heard about Willie Nelson did it or not, or Neil Young, but I'm pretty sure they wanted to.
Okay, maybe we should start inviting some of these people.
Well, they're getting quite old.
Yeah. Well, that was extremely interesting. Like, I don't have any questions offhand here, but still, I think ceremony is something that people wonder about and they're scared of because they don't know much about it.
And that's why they should find a friend and get invited and go to these things.
Yeah,
It was never meant to be secret. It was part of the creator's garden. The only one that turned that around on us was the Jesuits. That made it like a religious campaign, as you will,
yeah,
to stomp it out. That's convert indigenous people away from these heathen and savage ways. So it had to go underground for the sake of protecting it.
yeah,
But since the 70s, they talked about we have to share it again. The emphasis was the youth must know these things.
yeah. The other thing that I think people are very curious about is picking medicines.
We do that in Treaty 2. We did that last year. We're going to plan it again.
Yeah, that would be great if we could plan something like that.
Yeah.
So,
We usually do a teaching and then we go out on the land and we go find it ourselves. We go and identify it and we do the proper protocol of leaving tobacco. And it's hands-on. You got to do it for yourself.
yeah. Okay, I'll look forward to that. I think that's it for my questions for now.
All right. I don't know. I think that's it. So if that's it, then I'm gonna stop the recording. So again, miigwech, makana danaway maganak, all my relations. I'm thinking about you, Jules.